Alright, so the recording should be started now. So this will be the how to get better at Overwatch guide. Um, in the background is just some gameplay, and it's generally, Overwatch is a hard game, right? I mean, you could agree, Grayson. It's not an easy game to learn, especially even if you played first-person shooters.
No, not at all. Yeah, definitely time waster and consumer to get good.
Yeah. So Overwatch is a game that requires extensive time. And that's a huge thing that a lot of people don't understand. So like if you're just starting the game, the first step is getting time in. Because if you don't have time, you're just not gonna understand how abilities work and things like that. My second thing is if you are newer or even like an older player, you kind of want to stick to one character. So the way I got better at the game is I went in quick play and I played Genji for 60 hours, which is like, that's probably a huge extreme, and that was in Overwatch 1, right? So that, again, that's probably a big extreme, but, understanding a character well to start is kind of huge, because then you understand when that character is good and when he's bad. And then you could start to branch out. I think Grayson kind of did that with Roadhog for a little bit, and then he eventually swapped to more Sigma Roadhog mix.
In the first game, I probably put about like 40, 50 hours overall into Roadhog. It was probably about like 30 hours into him is when I really started like get super comfortable and was just switching off tanks to try this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, Roadhog, kind of like Genji in the sense of probably not the best tank to start off or a DPS to start off with, but nonetheless was a character I learned and got good at for a time being at the rank I was.
Right. Like the main thing is finding a character, even especially like if you want to play comp. If you're less of like I was Grayson's captain of our school's esports team. So it was a little bit of a different dynamic. But like if you're generally going for solo queue or even queuing with your friends, learning one character and just really understanding them is really big. And you want to make sure you have fun in that character and you can play them for those 40 hours, right? Because you want to play like, if you hate Mercy, but you're like, oh, I gotta play Mercy for 40 hours, that's you kind of don't want to do that. You want to be able to like the character so you could understand the game faster, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a thing like in League 2 where like you play like some people say to do easier champs or heroes. I still kind of disagree with that because I played Genji, who's pretty high skill. But just having the ability to just understand your character and then focus on what's actually going on is huge. And that could lead to the next thing, which is creativity. How to use your abilities, when to use them, what situations, like what things can you do to outplay, right? Like the new Sombra's out. This gameplay, I'm still even trying to figure out how to play her in a ranked game, which is probably not smart. But, you see me like slowly figuring out how to do like short dodges with a translocator, and things like that. That's definitely big. The other thing, a lot of new players, or even like people that are like, a lot of girls are really worried about using voice chat. And like people in, let's say, silver, gold, plat, they're like, nobody talks in my game, so they don't talk. And my recommendation for that is you should still talk. You should shot call, because even if literally nobody's in the voice chat, you're still actively engaging, and it's requiring your brain to actually understand what's going on in the game, right? So if you're like, oh, we have these ults, that means you're tracking them, even if nobody else is, right? That way you get a fundamental understanding of how the game works. Your shot calls won't be crazy to start, but like, you can even watch like high-level streamers, they'll shot call and stuff like that. It gives you a better understanding of what's going on because you have to focus on doing that as well. And that's probably a more like intermediate kind of tip, but that's something I do no matter what game I play generally, even if it's a terrible call and I'm bad at the game. But it is hard too, so I'd still recommend doing it even if you have to mute all of your teammates because they're terrible people. I'm trying to think, what should we do for the next one? I mean, there's definitely a lot of things to go over. Oh, okay, wait, I have a huge one.
Oh, yeah.
If you are specifically tanks, because I see a lot of low elo tanks doing this, and it makes me so upset. But even like supports, damage in any elo do this too. I fall victim to this quite a lot. It's just not good. But people need to turn around and know where their team's at. You know, that is so bad. There's been so many games, and like even with our lower team at our school, like I tell them to wait, and they don't listen, which is fine. It's not a big deal because it's something to work on. But they have no awareness of what the rest of their team is doing. They're more of a I'm playing my own game kind of thing instead of you have to be with your team. Even if your team is not the best, you have to stay around your team because they're the ones that heal you. They're the ones that take damage for you. And this is probably more like team fighting oriented, unless you're like Widow, right? Who just sits in the back of the map, doesn't give a fuck. But understanding, how to group up with your team is such a huge tip that people just don't listen to ever. It gets hard sometimes because you get tunneled, but it is one of the most important things in the game. I mean, they're trying to fix that with a new patch note for like in quick play, but even then, you should still like understand that general thing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. You cut out halfway through that with lag and then came back with it, but I'm sure it still works.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Another thing that you should learn is the Z key. Hitting Z to let your team know you have ults. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Hit that key.
That goes to the shot calling thing again. Like you need to let your team know you have stuff, right? Like if you could combo, like the Doom in this game that's in the background. I was calling whenever I had ult, and he was like, "All right, let's combo." So I'd go in and he'd use his ult too and stuff, right? So having people play off your abilities is another huge thing, right? You just calling out what you're doing is so important. Let's see. Oh, this one goes to all the support players in low elo. So I see a lot of like newer support players or low elo support players, not understanding the immense power that supports hold over the game. Right. Supports, you have no idea how frustrating it is to play Genji, right? And the supports just heal each other on repeat, and you do 0 damage because they heal. I've literally been 100 charged on Zarya, and the Mercy will just pocket their Baptiste to his 3 life bars, and then I die, even though I'm fighting them for so long, right? And then theoretically your team should win because you have both the supports on you, but
Yeah, that's how it is. These sole character Ana can counter the tank Roadhog, which is insane. What the hell?
Right. So a lot of support players don't understand the power they hold, and they're like, "Oh, Genji's diving me, even though they don't want to swap to Moira or Brig or they just don't win the duel or want to switch to characters that win the duel itself. And that hurts a lot of newer players. You're like, what do I do? This character's broken, even though they haven't tried to outplay the character with the actual switching mechanic in the game. Even though they said, "Oh, we don't want counter swaps. It's just the nature of Overwatch, and there's no way to fix that. It's just how the game works, right? So as you start to learn the game, you kind of need to develop. There's 2 types of players, right? There's the one trick, right? Like how I went with Genji for a while. So there's that. But the other one is one that can know multiple roles, right? So what I did is I learned Genji, and then I started to branch out after I got pretty good at Genji. So you kind of want to learn, even mystery heroes, it's kind of a stupid game mode a lot of the time. But even just to give you a general understanding of what each hero does is really good, and that's like a good fundamental to have. The other thing is, like, low elo players will save, this is a really big one too, the ult charge. Like, so lower elo players won't understand how to actually build ult charge fast. Like I'll see in our team scrims and stuff that I'm getting like two or 3 ults before they get 1 ult off. And some of that goes down to them just not doing enough damage or getting, killed on repeat, and that happens. But the other, major issue is they just hold on to it, waiting for the right moment, and that moment never comes, or they get, killed out of their ultimate, or just stuff happens. It's how the game works. So, using your abilities all the time, maximizing your ult charge are huge things, right? if you're not using Mercy's Fly, then why are you playing Mercy, right? You're not using Moira's Orb always off cooldown. Why are you even on Moira, right? That's kind of how you have to play the game. You have to use your abilities, and in lower elo, you know, as you get more used to your character, you should begin to understand how to use them correctly. And correctly, I'm using in a vague sense because in lower elo, let's say like plat, gold, the way you have to use abilities for say like a damage character is very different than how you'd have to do it in diamond, right? So having the awareness of how your abilities are gonna work in certain elos, right? Like you could abuse a silver tank on like say you go Junker Queen, right? And the other tank is let's say Roadhog. You could probably abuse them really hard on Junker Queen. But if the Roadhog is a little better and just keeps hooking you into the team, let's say he's like plat or even diamond, right? It'll be a little harder, but you have to understand what you could do. So basically, limit testing is another huge part. Because in lower elos, it's really hard to play correctly and actually win the game. Because like in high elo, you know, oh, I kill their supports, we should win the fight, and that happens in high elo most of the time, depending, you know. But lower elo, you kill the supports, that doesn't mean their random dude doesn't pop Diva Bomb and kill everybody for no reason. So
Right.
there's just stuff you won't be able to predict in lower elo or as you're playing.
Yeah, there's a lot of not known interactions too between abilities, which is a problem. But,
Yeah.
you know, obviously that was the time.
Another big thing, I'm trying to think what it was. I just had it, but I just switched the
Rip.
VOD over. I don't know. You think of one, Grayson. Let me know what your thought. What helped you when you first started, and I'll try and remember what I was thinking.
So obviously, just like playing the game a lot, and like, you know, playing a certain character and stuff like that. But really, like, I mean, honestly, the biggest thing for me to like just get up there, besides just like, you know, was that okay? Yeah. Something like Sigma specifically. It's very interesting, like how you play him in the sense of like a game sense, instead of just like, oh, I'm gonna throw shield, eat whatever, blah blah blah. Like, you know, he's like a crazy person, talks about like melodies and all this stuff, but honestly, you do have to play his moveset like a song. Like in the sense of how all his moves go on cooldown and come up, and you can use one right after the other. Is kind of how you have to like play him and play a lot of characters like that. Like, be very aware of cooldowns and how your abilities and stuff will flow together. Like, all right, say you're like your Roadhog, you see someone in front of you, but you got it's current Roadhog, so you got one shot and you have a hook, but you know you gotta reload, you don't have your E and all this other stuff. Is it worth it to like hook them and shoot them and do whatever? Maybe, maybe not. But like, you gotta understand the situation you're in, because there'd be the case where you're like, oh, I'm gonna hook them, get one shot, and my team can finish them off. But there's also the case you hook them, shoot them once, they don't really care, and all of a sudden you die because you don't have an E, you just brought them close to you.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like, obviously like knowing like what's going on and stuff, but the level at which your abilities interact and with each other, and like the levels of combos you can pull off with what you have up is very important. Because if you just do halfway shit because you didn't realize, oh, this is an up, or no, I can't get out because of this, or I'm gonna do this maneuver knowing I don't have a get out card kind of thing, that's not good. Once you start realizing like really how your character flows in the sense of movement, this way is like, you know, how Winston can dive the backline and jump out without getting killed. You know, like low elo guys, even when I tried the first time, jump on the backline, immediately got my shit pushed there.
Right.
Obviously, just learn a shield dance, learn how to do my cooldowns, see a little bit of my jumps. I can get in and out. Now, I'm not the greatest player, of course, but like, you just learn basic things about characters and what they're capable of to which degrees.
So I did remember it as you were talking, which you made some very valid points. So the thing that also helped me is even now, even me being a Masters or higher player, you kind of want to watch videos, and like people, if they watch this, right, which I don't know, I'm pretty tiny still, so it's not like it's gonna get huge appeal, but if anybody watches any videos, those immediately put you higher than most players in lower elos. You know, even plat players probably don't watch them, or diamond, right? So understanding like what a higher elo player thinks is good is very valuable. Or like they'll give you a lot of tips. Like there were a lot of tip channels when the game was super popular. There still are. I think some of their content is a little mid now though, because a lot of people still don't understand how to play. I mean, you know, there's some times where I don't understand how to play still. But like for example, tier lists, those are good, but not all tier lists. Like if you're gold, you're plat, you're diamond, you know, realistically any rank, no matter how, like if you are that good on the character, you will climb. It doesn't really matter. But still understanding like who is strong, right? So like Aris is still good, and Sigma is really strong right now too, in season 7, right? So you understand like these are the characters that I'm going to be facing, so you can understand, you know, how to face them a lot. And then there's guides, like I've made guides on, you know, map positioning. I plan to do, I think, 2 to 3 more today. But, you know, watching those will help you understanding, like, if you just look up character guides too, right? Like a big thing I did is I didn't watch people playing the character. I watched how they, like the guide they made, right? So I'd watch somebody that was like, this is how you do Genji, and they'd give you general tips, right? Like I'll give you an example of how I say you should play Zarya. And it's mainly comes down to knowing your bubbles really well. You know, I have a lot of time on Zarya, so that's more of like a feeling kind of thing after a while. And then it was more looking out for your team with bubbles and yourself is another huge part. But also like a lot of lower Zaryas won't use their right click on her, which is like the little grenade thing she shoots. And that gives you so much ult charge. If you're like max charge and you hit almost all the team, you'll get like 20% ult charge, which is ridiculous. And those videos will explain those kind of things to you. So those are really huge. One of the last points I really have that's a huge issue that a lot of newer players have is they focus, like let's say your support. This is mainly a support one. Yeah, this could go with tanks too. But what I've seen from my players learning the game still is as they're playing support, their first thought is I'm only gonna heal. You know, that's my main job is to keep my team alive. Yeah, that's your main job. That's very true. But you're the one that's supposed to not die as well. So if you have to die to heal somebody, like say, like in this game that I'm even like showing over in the replay, there were times where I was just unhealable, right? You know, I was having a rough day yesterday, but still, there's, yeah, and that happens too. So you have to, that's another point, but just understanding that like the healers, you know, you can't always blame your healers. Like, there are times where I promise you in silver, there are times where your healers are not good. Okay, that's, you know, understanding that is another huge thing. But as healers, they don't focus on the enemy team either, right? So yesterday there was in our scrim, one of our really new players, he was trying to make sure the tank didn't die, and I just walked up to him as main and held my button, and he didn't move and even look at me, right? And I've had lower elo players that I taught how to play on our team. They just don't pay attention to that they have a Widow, and they'll die to Widow on repeat, and they won't call that out, but they also won't pay attention to where she's standing, right? So they won't even look when the Widow's killing them 3 times, right? So that's, you have to, especially as a support, you have to understand what the other team is also doing. And be more reactionary as well. You know, proactive and reactionary are huge parts of the game. What was the other thing I brought up in that, Grayson, that I was talking about? The supports being reactionary. I had one other thing. Fuck, I can't remember what it was. I just had it again. Oh, yeah, probably understanding what the enemy team is doing entirely as well. Like I did bring up the support example, but like tanks don't notice that the enemy team has, like for example in this game was ridiculous, by the way. Their Hanzo was insane, but eventually they swapped to Hanzo, Bashed, and Zen, and as a tank, it's ridiculous. Oh, did I lag out, Grayson?
You're lagging a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
You're good now.
All right. So, did you hear what I said or no?
Now you started lagging.
Okay. So like understanding as a tank the other team is also important. I mean any role is important, right? But like I was talking about the example in this game that they have a Zen, the Hanzo, and the Bash. I think you were watching that with me last night while I was playing it. But you know, you have to understand like a lot of tanks are gonna have a really hard time with that. I went Ram even though they have an Ana because I don't know. I had no clue what to do because they were just shredding me. right? So at a certain point, it's kind of like you have to tell your team you need help with something. And you know they might help, they might not. There's some games that are literally just unwinnable in ranked, and that just happens. There's no way to control that. You just kind of have to live with it. Um, but I could tell you through my personal experience and playing with people, is that you can 100% climb if you are good enough, right? So as you go up through the tiers, right? So silver, you kind of have to dominate. Bronze, again, you have to kind of dominate. There are a lot of Smurfs in bronze, and if they are Smurfs, they're probably pretty decent because they probably bought an account. uh, silver's kind of the same, except it's the people that are that good in silver are probably around plat that are smurfing in it, or even gold, which isn't that high, and they have very clearly many flaws. So you kind of, as you go up the tiers, you kind of have to use smurfs as a way to base your own skill currently, right? Like if you're getting killed on repeat by somebody in the enemy team, you maybe even go watch the replay of it, and see what they were doing different. And that could definitely help you too. Like maybe they're going in a weird spot that you've never seen, or they did a weird interaction that you haven't seen. And those are all things that just help you learn the game better. But like as you go up, the Smurfs become better and better, but there's also less of them generally, from what I've seen. But understanding how to play against certain things like that, or who to focus, are very important things that you'll learn as you play and as you maybe watch content. If I think of anything else, or do you have anything, Grayson?
Off the top of my head, not really.
If I think of anything else, maybe I'll make another shorter video on this. But generally, it's Overwatch is hard, but you kind of have to work to improve to be better. And that's kind of the hard part, but it's also, it becomes easier as you do it, because the better you get, the easier it becomes to improve at certain things. So you're like, oh, I need to know how to do this now, right?
Besides
And then
character, I would say probably like awareness of like situations and like map, like where you are on the map is probably the biggest thing.
yeah. Again, if you're a lower elo player, you need to pay attention to your team. That's losing you more games than it's making you win. I promise you. If you're not paying attention to your team and what they're doing, and if you're not calling in chat, hey, you guys should back up, and they probably won't listen to you, and they probably won't even be in chat, but at least you're calling it out and you're understanding why things are going wrong. Or if you don't know why, you ask them why, and hopefully, if they're in chat, they might tell you, and then maybe you could work to figure something out. Because it is still a team game, even though you could like frag out a little more. But if there is anything else more that I or anybody I know, like Grayson or anybody that I play with, thinks of, then maybe I'll make an update to this and add some stuff. Yeah, that's it.